welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. A little bit of a journey to take today. If you are one of my patrons, and you know you always could be, you have been invited to a Discord server where I am running an online game. During the course of the conversations on the server, I have promised my patrons two stories. The Lava Lamp story and the V-Dead story. I can't tell the Lava Lamp story online. Well, I can, but not on YouTube. There's just too many... Yeah, it's not safe for family consumption, and I do try to keep the channel PG-ish. My patrons have already heard the story, so if you're interested, well, you know. To tell the V-Dead story, I need to talk a little bit about the mechanics of the victory system, the game system that I wrote, that I've talked about something like 150 times on this channel. Because to properly understand what's involved in this story, I need to talk about the mechanics for doing and taking damage in that system. Which gives me an opportunity to talk about the system a little bit. I have been wanting to talk about mechanics a little bit at a time, and this seems like a pretty good opportunity. In your classic role-playing game, or in a lot of them, there have been a lot of variations over time, you have a certain number of hit points based on dice rolls and class and constitution and various things. A certain number of points, like the health bar in a video game, that as that gets, you take damage, that gets whittled down until you have taken all of the damage that you can take and you are dead or out or down. I wanted to do something a little bit different. Characters in the victory system have a stamina statistic. It's a general measurement of how much endurance and durability the character has. From stamina, we derive two values. There is your damage resistance, which is the character's inherent ability to resist damage. And then there is the character's shrugs. Damage resistance is 2 times stamina. Shrugs is 1/2 stamina. If stamina is an odd number, you round up because math. Shrugs as a concept. You ever watch a movie? Because victory system is designed to emulate cinematic action. You're watching a movie or a television show, see some guy catch a bullet in the arm, and he yells and he clasps the wound for a second. A couple of scenes later, he is running and jumping like nothing happened. Maybe he's got a bloody bandage on it or something, but he's fine. He shrugged it off. The number of shrugs a character has is the number of wounds they can shrug off before they are overcome by the amount of damage they've taken. Say a character has 4 shrugs. That's not an uncommon number. The average character will have about 4. You can shrug off 4 wounds. As long as you are at a positive value, that being 0 or higher, you are conscious and able to act. Once you go below 0, the character has problems. Once the character hits 0, the first time they fail a damage resistance roll, they go unco. They are unconscious, incapable of motion. They will need to be treated to bring them back to consciousness or have a night of rest to restore their shrugs. If you take negative your number of shrugs, well, say you've got 4 shrugs, you're unco until you have taken more then -4. Down to -4, you are still unco. But once you have taken enough shrugs to bring you to -5, you are dead. That character has ceased metabolic function, their heart is stopped, and they're dead. They can still be brought back around. Medical attention or healing abilities. That is you get to them fast enough. CPR, surgery, field surgery, healing potions, or a healing spell, or a martial arts healing ability. They can be brought back as long as they're brought up above that negative number of shrugs number, until they go to over -2 times. In our example of someone having 4 shrugs, they're conscious until they hit -1. They're unco until they hit -5, at which point they are dead. At -9, they are dead as hell. That is the name of the state in the system. Dead as hell, all you can really do is go through the pockets for loose change. They are an X character. That is the end of it. There may not even be a recognizable corpse left. Anything over -9, in our example with 4 shrugs, that's the end of it. Oh, special abilities. You might be able to resurrect that character or bring them back for a little while to finish business, but that needs to be a quest, something that's going to inconvenience the whole party, and maybe be an adventure all in its own to bring back that character that is dead as hell. At dead as hell, you're pretty much making up a new character. This means in order to reduce that character with 4 shrugs to unco, you need to do 5 shrugs of damage. To reduce them to dead, you need to do 9 shrugs of damage. I get lost in the math. Numbers and I don't always get along. Yeah. To take them to, 9 shrugs of damage to get them to dead. Once they have taken 13 shrugs of damage, they are dead as hell. How do characters take damage? I talked about there being a damage resistance number. This is 2 times stamina. The average stamina is 7. So your average character has a damage resistance of 14. You do not roll for damage in the victory system. Instead, damage is a static value. For hand-to-hand, it's your strength, plus any levels you have in the martial damage skill, and any special abilities that modify your strength. The average character is doing 7, 8, maybe 10 points of damage with the punch. A 22 does 10 points of damage. 38 and 9mm does 12. A 44 does 14. A 45 does 15. 7.62 does 17. Or no, 7.62 does 18. 5.62 or 5.56 does 17. 50 caliber pistol rounds do 20. 20 is, and there are special abilities and larger equipment and special modifications, so damage can actually go much higher than this. But let's take, for example, a 22. Character with 7 stamina gets shot with a 22 round, fails to dodge, and now has to roll damage resistance. Subtract the amount of damage done, 10, from the damage resistance, 14. The remaining number, 4, is your target number. You have to hit or roll beneath that number on a d20 to bounce the damage, to resist being damaged by it. Oh, there might be a bruise or a scrape or a drop of blood cinematically, but you're not taking a shrug. Succeed that roll, the damage bounces, the bullet glands. Do you manage to avoid being damaged by it? Fail that roll, and you've taken a shrug. So fail that 5 times, and you might get knocked out. But that's when the damage does not exceed the damage resistance. It is possible to take more than one shrug at once. If you subtract the damage incoming from the damage resistance, and your target number is 0, and if you hit 0, that's an additional shrug. So I shoot someone with a 45 when they have a damage resistance of 14. Well, I'm subtracting 15 from 14. If they fail that, they now need to roll a 1. A 1 is always a success in the victory system. It's a critical success. If you roll that 1, 5% chance, it bounces miraculously. It's kind of amazing. People tend to cheer. If you don't roll the 1, you take a shrug for failing the roll, and you take an additional shrug for the damage having hit the target number having hit 0. Say I shoot the same character with a 50 caliber handgun doing a damage of 20. Every time the target number hits an additional 5 below 0, there's an additional shrug. So they need to roll 1, taking 14 minus 20, negative 6. Failing that roll is taking a shrug for failing, taking a shrug for hitting 0, taking a shrug for the damage having exceeded the damage resistance by 5 once. Shots to the vitals do an extra shrug. Shots to the head do 2 extra shrugs. So if I shoot someone with a big enough weapon or a damaging enough attack, I can reduce them to unco all at once. I could reduce them to dead all at once. If I am doing a tremendous amount of damage, I could reduce them to dead as hell all at once. Here ends the lesson on mechanics. So, years ago, I am playtesting this system. In its first stages, it was going to be a sequel to Hot Chicks, or at least another game setting called War for the Shattered Earth. That is now the default fantasy setting for Victory, but it was what was being playtested. And I was playing with a group of students in Burbank at a gaming shop there. I'd mentored them through Dungeons and Dragons. We'd done some stuff in other systems, and I'd introduced them to War for the Shattered Earth, and they enjoyed it. The system is a better one because of their involvement. You can find their names in the playtesters' credits at the front of the book. We did an Iron GMs tournament. Mind you, most of these students, I keep wanting to call them kids, and 1, they're not kids anymore, and 2, they weren't really kids when I met them. I met them at the end of their high school days and into their college years, so I will call them students, because we're all constantly students. This had been I was their first game master, their first dungeon master. This in many of their cases was their first real experience role playing. So they hadn't had a lot of experience running games, playing games, yeah, but not running them. But some of them were getting the idea that they would like to run games, which is the best way to figure out if you can. You pick up a game and you try and run it. So I was still playtesting Shattered Earth, and I wanted to see if someone else could pick it up and run with it. And there wasn't going to be a better chance at this point in time, so everyone got to run an adventure. A one-day, one-shot adventure. We would go around the table, and everyone would take their turn as the game master running for the rest of the group. And the person who was voted to have run the best game at the end could name whatever game they wanted me to run, and I would run it. Because I was playing in these and having been the game master at the beginning of this, I needed to make a character. Well, I dug into the past. One of the characters I made first for Space Opera, I kind of made over again in a as a beast person or animal person from the Shattered Earth, a lion man named Vraal Howla. But because Vraal was apparently a difficult name for people to pronounce on the fly, they just called him V. You can see where this is going. Now, the adventures ran from diabolically complicated to mind-numbingly tedious to flatteringly whimsical. These students ran an amazing set of games. It was a hard tournament to judge, and I was just exceptionally pleased that they had absorbed a good portion of the art from their experiences with me. I will still be amazed at how that worked out. And then came, I don't really want to use names because I don't want to embarrass anyone, but hi, Jeremy. And this particular run was whimsical. It was run on an Easter morning, or right next to Easter. I think it was actually an Easter morning. And so we were fighting marshmallow peeps. He'd statted them up as pretty decent villains. And it was hard to fight marshmallow because they were sticky and they absorbed a lot of damage and weren't terribly resistant to fire, as it turned out. And, yes, delicious. A little sweet, but very tasty. And then we fought King Peep. King Peep threw a magical attack. And mind you, this is whimsical, and this is funny, and we're fighting candy and with these fairly serious characters. Jeremy decided that King Peep was going to burn an additional 10 risk, the power statistic in Victory, to double the damage on his spell. Okay. And he was going to throw a spell called Mage Assault, which is an auto-fire attack, meaning it could hit an area or someone for a number of hits, and I think he burned the extra risk to do both. So he's just going to spread a whole area with these multitude of blasts, and that was where my character was standing at the time, and Jeremy rolled a 1 in the attack. That I mentioned that 1s are critical successes in the victory system. So the penalties to dodge are immense, and though Vraal was a good dodger, you roll a 1 on the attack. The only way to get out of the way of that is to roll a 1 on the defense, and I just didn't do it. And everyone starts looking at me with horror because the amount of damage that is about to come in is monstrous. Because Jeremy had doubled the damage, I believe each individual attack was doing something like damage of 40, and there were 10 of those coming in, and actually no, the damage, because he doubled the damage, so it was 20, and because he rolled the 1, all of the shrugs that were being done were doubled because it was a critical success. Vraal had a really healthy damage resistance of something like 22. So, missed, hit 0, and over by 5 3 solid times. That is 5 shrugs, doubled to 10 because of the critical success. 10 times. That was not 100 points of damage. That was 100 shrugs. Vral could only save against that damage by rolling a 1, and I rolled no 1s. The first time I failed, he was gone. Well, okay, he was having 22. He had like 5 shrugs, a good solid 5 shrugs. So at the first hit, he was taken straight to -5, Unco at the edge of dead. Second hit, he was dead as hell. Second hit out of 10, he was dead as hell. And just kept coming. There was nothing left. His individual atoms lost their cohesion. There might have been a little bit of fission going on there in the spot where he had once stood. You know, I'd never seen that much damage done in my system before. Certainly not against a PC. And we sat there at the table, outdoors on this lovely Easter morning, looking at the marshmallow candy in the middle of the table that had murdered my character. And you know, we're talking about do-overs, what we could do to resurrect him. Like, nah, he's gone. He is dead. He's dead as hell. He is so far beyond dead as hell, I don't think... He's not just dead, he's V-dead. V-dead came to be the term for someone who had been destroyed so hard in the system that dead as hell just didn't cope. 100 shrugs all at once, yeah, that's V-dead. We burned that particular marshmallow. In fact, Jeremy disliked that individual piece of actual candy that had been used to represent the bad guy so much after that he was cut into pieces, microwaved, and then burned. It was cathartic because the rest of the party descended on him like God's own vengeance and removed it from existence in game, to the point where physical representation, it made people feel better. I made another character because I was going to stick with that. How do you not stick with that? How do you not look at the first character eliminated that hard in your game and, you know, it being yours for one thing, but that was so spectacular that the term still remains in the consciousness of that group and maybe some other groups at this point in time. 100 shrugs all at once. I've seen that much damage done rarely in my system, but it can be done. Actually, I'm working on rules where that kind of damage is going to be a potential more often. It's the mecha rules. When very, very large giant robots shoot things that are not giant robots, that could be an issue. But that is a matter for another post. So thank you for following along with this particular journey through mechanics and story time. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you enjoy the video and would like to tell me some stories about characters that you have seen die horribly in games, if you've got your own version of V-Dead, or questions about the system, or things you'd like to hear me talk about, leave me a comment. I will love giving a comment, and you will love giving me one. If you really enjoy the videos and you have not yet subscribed to my channel, well, why haven't you subscribed? My videos are awesome, but go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And if you do hit the subscribe button, hit the little notification bell next to that so that you get notified when my videos become available. If you'd like to contribute in a more meaningful manner, I've mentioned that my patrons have access to a Discord channel where I am running online games and am accessible for commentary and conversation. If you'd like to look into something like that, hit me up at my Patreon channel, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Absolutely anything helps, gives you access, and allows me to make better videos more often. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I'm Scott Corum, this is what has mattered to me, and I will see you next time in the next Matters of DeCorum.